Okay, let's go ahead and move on here to the GOP. Cable news loves this story. We'll try and give you all sides of it. So you will recall, I think it was in our Thursday show last week, we put up on the screen the Trump statement in which he called out Mike Pence. He said he was a coward for not disputing the results of the election. Obviously, he's like totally bonkers, and it was crazy. But it actually proceeded, as I said in the show. Pence was set to give a speech in Florida, Orlando, Disney actually, at the Federalist Society convention, where he gave a robust response to Donald Trump. And it was, I'll give it to him. I mean, look, like it was the strongest repudiation I have seen on this specific element. Let's take a listen.
But there are those in our party who believe that as the presiding officer over the joint session of Congress, that I possess unilateral authority to reject electoral college votes. And I heard this week that President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president. Under the Constitution, I had no right to change the outcome of our election.
Well said, Mr. Vice President.
Indeed.
Very interesting. Obviously, cable had a heyday with that one. It was like, Pence declares war on Trump. Look, I mean, in a way, this is the least you could expect from Pence. I mean, Trump literally hung him out to dry on January 6th.
Yeah, I mean, there are people marching around the Capitol chanting for his death. So.
All of this. So, look, I mean, I obviously acted honorably on January 6th, and I think, he continues to do so. That being said, if you think that Pence is going to be the GOP nominee for president, I have a bridge to sell you. I mean, people, the Republican base loves Trump. They don't care about January 6th, period. They genuinely do. They probably don't look at Mike Pence as a traitor outside of the hardcore MAGA faithful, but they're like, oh, he didn't stand with Trump like when it mattered, or he's not a fighter like our man Trump. He will not win absolutely 100%, period. But it shows you the growing fissures within the GOP, because right after that, what ended up happening is that the RNC has gone ahead and censured Congressman Adam Kinzinger and Congresswoman Liz Cheney for their role in the January 6th Select Committee, authorizing subpoenas, turning it into like this whole circus on Capitol Hill that CNN and all these other people can't get enough of. So the censorship of that included the line legitimate political discourse. So this was something which has been made a lot of, but I went ahead and I read the actual censor language, Krystal, and they were not responding to the riot and the insurrection or whatever you want to call it itself. They were saying like a protest is a legitimate form of political discourse. I mean, that is true.
I mean, obviously in this context, we see what they're doing. And that's gross.
I hear, how many times do I have to hear a riot is the voice of the unheard during Black Lives Matter protests? All I'm saying is it's very clear here. We can delineate what's happening. And if from the RNC, they're obviously trying to whitewash what happened on January 6th. No question about it. That being said, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are serving on the committee at the behest of the Democratic Party and of Nancy Pelosi. And I don't think they're acting honorably or whatever. I think they're trying to save their careers.
I think it's disgraceful that the only decent thing that Liz Cheney has done in her entire career is the thing that gets her censured. Seriously. I mean, it just shows you how hollow the Republican Party is. I mean, they literally are running on no platform, as we've talked about many times. And so even though, like, all of their worst and longest held beliefs, Liz Cheney is 100% on board with, the one thing that she did of like being honest about what happened on January 6th and condemning Trump for his disgraceful role in that day is the thing that gets her kicked out of the party. I mean, and also obviously like the Democrats, the fact that they love Liz Cheney, even though she has all of these horrific, odious views,
to kiss her hand,
totally counter to what the party is supposed to be about. But, for them, for especially the elites in the Democratic Party, it all collapses down to where do you stand on the issue of Trump? And so Trump has just totally rotted the core of both of these parties. On the Pence comments, I want to give him credit. I think he said it very clearly. I think it was a strong statement, unequivocal. You like to see that. I'll also say that I think Trump's comments forced his hand where he realized he couldn't play this sort of play both sides.
I think you're right.
Because initially after January 6th, it seemed like, all right, there's going to be a very clear break here. Then afterwards, he sort of tried to have his foot in both camps of I was honorable on January 6th, but also I still like Trump. And Trump, by putting out that statement calling him a coward and all of that, he realized, I'm not going to be able to have it both ways. Yeah. So this is my only play left, is to actually lean into, the fact that this was not good and I did the right thing, Mr. President.
I think you're right. The interesting part, too, is this has exposed a big fissure here in Washington in terms of Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy actually supported the censure of Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger. Obviously, they're in his conference. But Mitch McConnell actually spoke out against it. Let's take a listen to that.
Well, let me give you my view of what happened January the 6th. And we're here. We saw what happened. It was a violent insurrection for the purpose of trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power after a legitimately certified election from one administration to the next. That's what it was. With regard to the suggestion that the RNC should be in the business of picking and choosing Republicans who ought to be supported, traditionally the view of the national party committees is that we support all members of our party, regardless of their positions on some issues.
So obviously having a Senate Minority Leader on your side, that's a big fissure. I mean, it's interesting. Like I said, I have no sympathy for the Stop the Steal wing of the party whatsoever. I think you're absolute cranks. And, you made your bed, and Georgia shows you that it doesn't particularly work out so well. What I find is annoying about this is it's just clear to me, Krystal, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, you guys are Democrats now. It's fine. Just accept it. The central dividing line is Trump. You guys are on the other side of that. I think that's okay. I wish it wasn't that way. If our politics could transcend that, I would be happy about it. But that's just simply not the way that it works right now in terms of the base. We were talking about this earlier with Jonah Goldberg on the CNN thing, trying to define conservatism towards something that the majority of people who identify as conservatives in the Republican Party do not agree with you on. And if you're out of step, it's okay. I am too. I long ago accepted it. I do my own thing here on the show. I don't know why it's so hard for people to try and pull it in a direction that the majority of their people don't agree with them in, even if you do find that belief odious. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I guess you could look at it from the other perspective, just to be fair here. I don't have any sympathy for Liz Cheney. I just want you to know. But from her perspective, she's thinking, well, the Republican Party shouldn't just be about Donald Trump. It should be about my commitment to war and tax cuts for the rich. Yeah. That's what it should be about. And so, I mean, I guess, whatever. She also has obviously a media play here. Her profile among the sort of media establishment has been highly elevated. So it's not like this has been all bad for her. This has been, in certain ways, depending on whatever it is she wants to do next. If she wants to go sit on a board of Halliburton or
she will.
Boeing or whoever, then she'll be able to do that. On the McConnell thing, let me say this about him, which is that this man has no principles or values, so get that out of your head right now, that this is principled stand from Mitch McConnell. What he's pissed about is he's like, let the frickin' Democrats run around and talk about January 6th all day and have the public understand that they're not focused on the problems that the public is most concerned about day to day. What are you all doing? Jumping into this January 6th censure insurrection debate and putting our, very likely massive gains at risk for the fall. This isn't what we should be talking about. That's what he's pissed off about, is that this is stupid politically to bring up this crap and start this fight and have this big debate, in the Republican Party about January 6th. They were in much better position when they were just letting the Democrats hang themselves out to dry. And so that's what McConnell is mad about. He's mad that this is politically, completely brain dead for them to be going in this direction of these censures and their own sort of internecine January 6th fight.
No, that's correct. Actually, and weirdly, and I'm now sympathetic to Mitch McConnell, which is, look, at the end of the day, this is Trump's party. I just think anybody who's a Republican needs to accept that. And I say this, again, with my own idea that this is terrible. That's why I will want nothing to do with it. But if you're in it, that's what the majority of Republicans believe, and they voted and they've told you that a million times. Hence the RNC shenanigans. It is all about Trump and his personality, period. And it's putting up a middle finger to the left. If you have any higher aspirations or beliefs in that, I don't know what to tell you. And I don't know a single data point that you can point to that would show you opposite. I mean, the idea that it's about anything bigger or ideas, none of that.
Policy
Let
proposal.
Go. Let go. Accept the reality. It's okay. You know, you can hang out here with people who are disgusted by everybody. And I still maintain that's the actual center of the American public. But you look at this and you see what's happening within the GOP. Is it sad and clownish? Yeah. But also the people who are fighting against it, I don't know, man. I feel like they're just as sad as clownish as everybody else.
It's very impotent, that much I will say. Right. And then it's hard to get behind them when the values that they want to restore in the Republican Party are so odious and have been completely destructive to the country. And that just gets completely sanitized and lost in the media coverage of this. And it's just, the media is brain dead here too of it's just which side are you on? If you're opposed to Trump, then you're a good person. Doesn't matter all the crimes you've committed and errors you've made and sins you've had in the past. That's the only thing that ultimately matters. So again, as you're watching all of this unfold, think about the political incentives that people have versus, imagining that Mitch McConnell is suddenly a voice of reason or principle in any of this.
I agree with that.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.